Hey guys, so today I am doing some drip irrigation. It's a project that I've put off way too long, and the reason for that was because we have quite a bit of stuff we want to do with the garden as far as layout, but I need to get the kitchen garden set on irrigation because it's getting hotter. Summer's just right around the corner. It's about 80 something degrees right now, but last week we had some temperatures in the hundreds, and I'm going to show you real quick. So right now we're at 82, but it's going to get in the 90s, and then all next week we're in the high 90s, hundreds. So it's going to remain pretty hot for the rest of the season, basically. So I want to get the drip irrigation done. I'm just going to do this section right here, and then we'll basically cut into the rest of the garden as time goes on. We set up whatever locations we want here in the garden, but for now I want to get the drip irrigation done. I want to show you guys exactly what I'm doing and what I'm using to do drip irrigation. So I'm gonna go ahead and move over to where our faucet is so we can go ahead and get all that stuff started. So having drip irrigation is definitely a lifesaver when it comes to being out in the garden. You definitely want to spend less time doing stuff and more time enjoying the garden. And I have used quite a bit of different products when it comes to drip irrigation. I've used different brands and different products when it comes to drip irrigation, but I found that it's much cheaper to just find different pieces that are universally compatible with each other, because buying one brand or one specific product is always gonna lead you to want to continue to buy the same product. So what I did was I went ahead and went on Amazon, found different pieces that are compatible with each other. 1/2-inch drip tubing. I bought a 500-foot row because we have quite a bit of space that we're gonna use here. So this is definitely gonna be enough to do what we need here in the garden. The other thing you're gonna want is you're gonna want this 1/4-inch drip tubing. Now I bought about 100 feet, and then you can find many pieces like this where you have all the little parts here and there. I found this one on Amazon. It's about a 300-piece set. You can definitely buy pieces that have more, less, or different types of pieces that you're gonna need throughout your garden. And then you have these pieces right here for the 1/2-inch tubing. There's T's, there's elbows, and then there's stoppers, basically. Now I found these are easier to get off of Amazon because if you go to like Home Depot or Lowe's, they're gonna be a lot more pricier for individual pieces. So this is definitely the best bang for your buck when it comes to getting pieces for your drip irrigation. Now all this stuff is linked down below in the description where you can find it off of Amazon. Then we have a couple of drippers here. Now these, the 1/4-inch tubing goes into this, and this basically acts as a sprinkler. Now you can do little 2-gallon emitters or 1-gallon emitters, whichever ones you want. I like using this because I want to get more coverage than just drips in certain areas, and I might change them around later in the future. But again, these are all off of Amazon. You can get a whole bunch of these, very inexpensive. And then lastly, I have these landscape spikes. They're gonna help to keep your tubing in the ground. Now you can dig your tubing into the ground. I'm not going to do that because there's things that still might change. Once I have a more solid idea of what we're doing, I can probably dig it into the ground. Now some spots I will dig into the ground because I don't want it to be as noticeable, but this is gonna help keep this tacked to the ground if you're not planning on digging it into the ground. And then there's many other different parts you can definitely use with your drip irrigation. You can use timers, and we'll do that later. We'll set up a timer so it times when the stuff gets watered. There's backflow emitters, there's attachments, and I actually do have my attachment already attached here. And this is the attachment that goes on to the end of the 1/2-inch, and this attaches right to the faucet. Now later we'll change this. This is just temporary because I want to see how I'm going to get this set up and where it's going to go and how it's actually going to work. But again, there's many different parts. If you click on any of the links down below, it'll lead you to all kinds of things, all sorts of stuff that you can use with your drip irrigation to get you going into your garden. All right, so like I said, I already have this piece of my drip already ready to go and connected to the faucet. I'm not going to do that quite yet because I want to make sure that everything is done. I'm not going to tack this down either. So I want to make sure I have enough slack as I start to move along the garden and have enough room to kind of play with things. So this is pretty much done. We're gonna move over to another section. Okay, so I've already got this piece right here going into the kitchen garden. I hope you can hear me because I have the AC unit going. It's very, like I said, it's very hot. And I want the AC to be running inside because the kids are spending time inside today. But I already got my piece there going. So what I use is basically an elbow here. Now I'm just gonna run my tubing all the way, basically just run a perimeter here, and I can tap into that wherever I need the water to go to. That's gonna be the easiest way to do it. So the first step is to run a perimeter of this 1/2-inch tubing all around the garden here. Now, pro tip when it comes to running your 1/2-inch tubing, you saw that big row that I bought, it's a 500-foot row. Now that is gonna be very hard to untangle once you get it going. Unfortunately for me, I already had some ran in here because I did it previously. That's just an extra row that I have. Pro tip though is to leave that in the sun for a little bit, unband it, let it unfurl itself, and if you want to stretch it out and leave it in the sun. It's going to be a bit more pliable. Now don't leave it too long in the sun because you're going to have it melting. If it's twisted, it's gonna melt like that and it's gonna stay like that, and you'll have to replace that piece of tubing in your drip irrigation. That's why it's always safe to just lay it out the way you need it to and tack it down as soon as you can. Once it starts to get nice and pliable, don't leave it out too long because it's gonna start to melt. All right, and to help the process, I'm using landscape spikes. Now I'm not tacking it in permanently yet. These are just to hold it in place while I work around the rest of the garden, and it's not moving so much. Okay, here's a perfect example of why you shouldn't leave it in the sun too much. Now, this was straightened out. Unfortunately, it must have moved and twisted up a little bit, trying to form back to its original shape when it was in the coil, and it started to melt more than what I wanted it to. So the sun was really, really hot right here. This is what happens if you leave it out too long. Don't let it heat up too long. Straighten it out, put it to where you want it, and prevent this right here. But this is an easy fix. You can use some pruners to easily cut your tubing. But easy fix here is just, we have a 1/2 inch straight fixture here. Just gonna do this here, attach it here, and attach it here, and it's fixed. Easy. Nothing crazy happening there. Shut-off valves, which I'm going to include right here because I have a split right here where I'm going to go further into the garden. The roses don't have to be watered every single day, so I'm going to include a shut-off valve so I can turn this one off and turn it back on. And if anything does need to be watered here, then we can do this by hand. It's not a big deal, but I do want to shut off some of the water going to certain areas where we're going to have lots of roses, and we don't want that to be waterlogged. Okay, so I've got my tubing set up all around the perimeter here, and it's a different day, different outfit. And the reason for that is because I was using these bubblers here that I showed you guys, and I wasn't too happy with them. I put them in there and turned on the water, and it's kind of like very inconsistent. Too much spraying, too little spraying. And if I attach anything else where it relieves some of that pressure from the irrigation system, then I don't want to be fidgeting all the time with adjusting the nozzles of how much water I want to come out, how little water I want to come out. So I'm just getting rid of this altogether. Now what I am going to use are these 2-gallon emitters, and I'm only using these for my melons or anything that's in containers because I don't need too much water to go to. And these are really easy to connect. I know I didn't show it in detail. So this basically goes into your 1/2 inch tubing that you set up around the perimeter, and you attach it with one of these right here. This goes in like so. Some of them are a little bit harder, some of them are a little bit easy, depending on the tubing. And then once you do that, you poke the hole through the 1/2 inch tubing and slip that in there. And then on this end, you get your 2-gallon emitter, insert it to the end there, and then you get a stake or something to hold it. I'm using landscape stakes, and you just tack it in the container you want it to water, and it drips 2 gallons per hour. Very easy to do this installation. Like I said, these pieces you can buy off of Amazon. They come with so many pieces on here. You got some plugs where you can plug the ends of your tubing, your 1/4 inch tubing, or you can plug the hole that you did in the 1/2 inch tubing, so you no longer need to use that one wherever you stuck an emitter at. You got some T's, lots of T's actually. You got some regular couplings that connect the 1/4 inch to 1/4 inch, or inside your 1/2 inch tubing to a 1/4 inch tube. What else do we have here? I know I had some, oh, here we go. You got some 4 ways also, so you get your 1/2 inch to your 1/4 inch to go into there, and then you split it 3 ways if that's something that you want to do. Now, setting up drip irrigation isn't always perfect when it comes to the home gardener. Unless you hire a professional to come out here and do it, they're going to do all the testing for you. They're going to set it up the way you need it. But if you're a home gardener, you're just doing drip irrigation, you're going to want to buy some things and test some things to your liking, basically. So I went ahead and instead of doing 2-gallon emitters or any type of bubblers or any sprayers, I went ahead and just set up soaker hose. So this is a 1/4-inch soaker hose. Same way you attach all the other fittings. All I did was just run this through my beds, tacked it down with some landscape spikes, and this is what I'm gonna rely on to water my vegetable beds here. So I've got them in all the little beds here. We'll test it out here in a few minutes and see how that works. But in the meantime, I need to run some drip over to the circle garden because, like I said, ran this along the perimeter and ran it a little bit farther so I can attach some other things later in the future. And this is gonna run certain areas in the back here, and then I'll set up another one that goes from the front faucet to the back here because I don't wanna have too much connected to one faucet. I wanna have enough pressure for equal sides of the garden. So now over here at the circle garden, I got my 1/2-inch tubing, ran along the perimeter, and I ran some all the way to the circle garden here, where I plan to dig it into the ground, but it's not dug in yet because I want to test how it works before I actually dig it into the ground. So in the meantime, it's running over here. I ran it underneath our border here, so it goes into the circle garden here. Now here, what I used was 1/4-inch emitter tubing. Now 1/4-inch emitter tubing has 2 different sizes. You can get it in a 6-inch spacing or 18-inch spacing. This is a 6-inch spacing, so you're gonna have emitters every 6 inches. And we ran that basically in a circle right here in the circle garden. So when we run this irrigation system, it'll start to water here too. Now we're gonna normally run it for about 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how hot the day is and how dry things are looking, which leads me to my next thing. We talked about adding a timer. I have a timer that I'm going to add to our drip irrigation system, so we no longer have to come out here and manually turn it on. We can use the timer and control it all through our phone. Okay, so anytime I can combine technology with gardening is a plus for me because I absolutely love technology. I love the electronics. So what I have here is a smart dual water timer from Lumary. Now this was sent to us by Lumary to test out, and I'm gonna test this out for you guys so you guys can see how this actually works. I used many timers in the past before to irrigate. As you know, living a military lifestyle, we traveled quite a bit. So there was times when I actually had to set a irrigation timer to water our plants while we were gone from home. All right, so as I open this up, first thing you see is the actual dual timer here. This connects to the outlet right here, and then you have 2 outlets right here where one we can connect our hose, and then the other we're going to connect our drip irrigation system to. Now I said this is a smart timer, so you have the connection here that plugs into the outlet and actually connects this to your home wireless network. Then we have a couple of quick releases here for our hose, and then one on the other side for our drip irrigation, and a couple extra washers here that we can use just in case we need to replace those. So you get 2 of these, you get the washers, the smart timer, and the adapter here to connect to your wireless system. Then of course you get a user manual that tells you how to set it all up and get you started. So real quick, I'm gonna set this up to our network here and then come back and get this installed. All right, so this does take 4 AA batteries, which I've already put in here, and it's got a waterproof cover here. This whole thing is generally supposed to be waterproof, of course, because you're running it outside, but it takes 4 AA batteries. I've already got our adapter connected inside, and we're just gonna get this set up to the network via app. Once I paired the device, now I have to pair the water timer, and that is what I'm gonna do here. It says to press and hold on the water timer for 6 seconds until I observe a rapid green light flashing. All right, you got the green light flashing. Now I gotta select the gateway and add a device. Search for devices. It says it's ready to pair. It's trying to discover it now. All right, found it. Done. Gives me a notification telling me that it's now available to use. So within the app you have quite a few different things. It gives you the date, the temperature of the day, what time of day it is, the low, the high. It gives you your zones, how you can set this up. Now this is all customizable, so you can set up which one you want to switch to, how long you want it to run, and at what time you want it to run. We can always keep one always on, which is a case for our actual hose. We'll keep it always on during a certain time of the day, and then the irrigation will only run for a certain portion of the day. All right, so I've Connected my water timer here. As you can see, it has two switches here. We can turn one on and off. You can manually do it through here, or you can manually do it through the app. And it has a little water symbol there that shows you that one's working. Now I'm gonna go ahead and switch on the drip irrigation. I'm gonna show you guys how that's working. So that should be flowing. Let's go and check it out. So as you can see, the drip irrigation is definitely working. It's working in the kitchen garden, and it's also working in the circle garden. And I'm just loving the fact that we can spend more time enjoying the garden and less time watering. It's exciting because the kitchen garden here is going to be watered at a certain time. So I know that that's going to be happening. We'll get the rest of the garden set up on drip as well, so we don't have to worry too much about coming out here and watering when it's very, very hot. Now, I'm doing this later in the day. It's evening now, but I should have done this a long time ago because temperatures are rising here. When I started this video, it was early in the morning, and it was just getting way too hot out here. So it's exciting to be able to have this drip irrigation, and being that it's a smart timer, it's just awesome because I can control it through the phone. It'll tell me how many gallons it's actually put out through the actual setting here, so I know how many gallons are spread out throughout the garden. I know the temperature for the day. It has rain delay. There's all type of customizable options in the app that is just too much to get into, but I highly recommend getting a smart timer because it's gonna benefit you in the long run. And drip irrigation, of course, especially if you're down here in the southern states, southern Texas especially, it's getting way too hot. So if you guys want a more in-depth video on drip irrigation as far as the fittings and things go, I know this was a quick crash course. I didn't want to get too much into the details, but I did want to show you guys what we're doing to maintain the garden here, because one of the biggest things here in southern climates is the heat and watering. You want to water your plants to make sure that they're going to stay healthy, stay alive, and not be drooping throughout the day. Now, if they do tend to droop because the temperatures are just that consistently high throughout the day, that's just something that's unavoidable. But knowing that the roots are getting the water they need is the best course of action. So, hope you guys enjoyed it. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you guys in the next video. Bye. Yes.
It's ready.
It's ready? Take it off.
I accidentally broke.
Let me see that.
Stem a little bit.
Even little man's excited for drip irrigation. Say bye.